A little girl, desperate and tearful, dashed out and urgently signaled to a garbage collector before pointing back at her house. Within minutes, the street was teeming with police cars, completely sealed off. The terrifying truth the child revealed to the trash collector transformed his normal morning into an absolute nightmare, unveiling dark secrets that had been concealed far too long. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and if you enjoy these kinds of stories, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Marcus Taylor navigated his garbage truck through the serene suburban streets, the early morning sun casting elongated shadows across the neatly kept lawns and well-kept homes. Glancing at the dashboard clock, it read 8:20 a.m. He was running 35 minutes late, a nagging reminder that his routine was disrupted due to his partner's illness and the absence of a replacement. Alone in the cab, Marcus reflected on his 2-year tenure, his actions smooth and precise, a testament to his experience gathered over countless mornings in these familiar roads. The Brightwood neighborhood, with its impeccable aesthetics, contrasted sharply against his functional truck, yet Marcus felt a deep sense of pride in his essential role in maintaining the neighborhood's cleanliness. As he pulled up to his next stop, Marcus noticed Rachel and her daughter Lucy alighting from their car and heading into their home. He had come to know them quite well, recognizing their faces from his daily rounds. Typically, Marcus would share a friendly greeting with the residents, a small but meaningful interaction that made his job more pleasant and fostered community spirit. Today, however, the vibe was different. As he called out a cheerful good morning, he received a terse hi in response. Lucy avoided eye contact, and Rachel seemed unusually tense. This exchange lacked the usual warmth and left Marcus feeling uneasy as he placed their bin back by the curb. Pondering over the strange encounter, Marcus couldn't help but feel concerned about Lucy's subdued behavior and Rachel's hasty demeanor. He reminded himself that it could just be an off day for them. Perhaps they were just running late or dealing with some personal issues. As he lifted their heavier-than-usual bin to the truck, his thoughts were interrupted by his own reflection in the side mirror. His eyes, underscored by dark circles, spoke of the long hours and early starts demanded by his job, but also displayed the resolve and pride he took in his work. Upon emptying the bin, Marcus noticed something unusual. A loosely tied bag revealed brand-new children's clothes, a complete school uniform, a backpack, and untouched school supplies along with some toys. Stopping the mechanical arm, he felt a tug at his conscience, wondering why perfectly good items were being discarded. Deciding against his usual protocol, he retrieved the bag and walked up to Rachel's door. After several knocks, she answered, looking even more disheveled than before. Her reaction to Marcus's concern about the discarded new items was defensively sharp. Just then, a loud crash from inside the house startled them both. As Marcus and Rachel looked towards the noise, a fleeting expression of fear crossed her face before she abruptly shut the door. Conflicted, Marcus stood there, the unease from earlier now turning into genuine concern. He returned to his truck, the encounter weighing heavily on him as he continued his rounds, his professional duties at odds with his personal instincts. As he drove away, the sight of Rachel's troubled face and the sound of breaking glass lingered in his mind, leaving him questioning if there was more he could have done to help. The morning continued, and Marcus tried to focus on his job, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the unsettling events at Rachel's house. A few houses down, as he was lifting another bin, Lucy suddenly ran up and clung to him, her appearance neat yet her demeanor anything but. Distressed, she pleaded for help, her voice cutting through the quiet morning air. She gestured towards her house, her small hand trembling with each movement. Marcus's professional exterior softened as he faced the clearly distraught child. His actions were careful and measured as he checked her for any visible injuries. Though she was visibly upset and crying, she appeared unharmed. The constant barking from a nearby yard intensified the tension, creating a noisy backdrop to the unexpected encounter. "Lucy, what's wrong?" Marcus asked, his tone gentle, trying to soothe her with his calm and reassuring voice. Are you hurt? Where's your mom? But Lucy's emotional state only worsened with his questions. Her tears made it difficult for her to speak clearly, leaving Marcus struggling to comfort the frightened child while attempting to understand what had upset her so deeply. He started walking her towards her house, hoping to find Rachel and clarify the situation. Lucy resisted, pulling back from Marcus's gentle guidance, her fear palpable. It only deepened Marcus's concern. What could have transpired in the short time since he'd last seen their house to cause such fear in Lucy? As they walked, Marcus tried once more to engage her. "It's okay, sweetie, you're safe. Can you tell me what happened? Did something scare you?" Lucy's responses were jumbled, a mix of hiccups and sobs, barely making out the words, "Dad," "Mom," "scared." A chill ran down Marcus's spine as the pieces began to come together. The new clothes thrown away, Rachel's disheveled state, the sound of breaking glass, and now Lucy's terror. Clearly, something was very wrong in that house. They had nearly reached Lucy's home when Marcus heard a door slam shut. Looking up, he saw a man stepping out of the house, his stride purposeful and aggressive. Marcus instinctively positioned himself between Lucy and the approaching figure, his protective instincts kicking in despite the uncertainty of the situation. As the man drew closer, Marcus noted that he was tall and dressed in an expensive custom suit, which starkly contrasted with Marcus's work uniform. The man's face was twisted with anger, his eyes locked on Lucy hiding behind Marcus. "What are you doing with my daughter?" he demanded in an accusatory tone, his voice laced with barely concealed anger. Lucy gripped Marcus's leg tighter, her small body trembling against him. Marcus, striving to maintain a calm demeanor, replied evenly, "Sir, your daughter approached me. She seems upset. I was just trying to help." But the man interrupted him, his tone shifting from threatening to condescending as he took in Marcus's garbage collector uniform. "Help? What could someone like you possibly do to help?" The father's prejudice was blatant in his subsequent words. "You have no business interfering with my family. Know your place, garbage man." The verbal assault continued, each word dripping with disdain. "I suppose picking up trash is all someone with your limited intelligence could manage. Did you even finish high school, or were you too busy getting into trouble?" Marcus felt his jaw clench, stung by the man's cruel words. He had encountered prejudice before, but seldom this overt and harsh. He was acutely aware of Lucy still clinging to his uniform behind him. The father's tirade escalated. "I should call your employer right now. Better yet, I'll call the police. How dare a black criminal like you touch my daughter? Stop sticking your nose in other people's family matters." Marcus wrestled internally with how to respond. Every instinct screamed at him to defend himself and retort against the man's unfounded accusations, but he was sharply aware of how his reaction could be perceived. Lucy was still with him, and if he lost his temper or attempted to physically confront the man, it would only paint an uglier picture. Despite the father's provocative behavior, Marcus forced himself to remain calm. He understood that any aggressive response would only reinforce racist stereotypes and could potentially worsen the situation for Lucy. Taking a deep breath to center himself, Marcus started, "Sir, I understand you're upset, but your daughter came to me asking for help. I'm just trying to make sure she's okay." The father scoffed. "She doesn't need help from the likes of you." He reached out to grab Lucy's arm, but she shrank back, pressing herself closer to Marcus. Torn, Marcus knew he had no legal right to keep Lucy from her father, but every instinct told him something was terribly wrong. With great reluctance, he crouched down to meet Lucy's eyes, his voice heavy with regret. "Lucy, I'm sorry, I can't protect you. I have a job to do, and your father is right. I don't have any authority here." The words tasted bitter, each one breaking his heart a little more. You should go home with your dad, okay? Lucy looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear and betrayal. As the father reached for her again and pushed her forward to walk back into the house, she suddenly broke free and ran back towards Marcus, who was about to climb into his truck cab. "Please," Lucy cried out, her voice filled with desperation, "don't make me go back. I'd rather die than go home with him. My dad is bad." Marcus froze, his hand on the truck door. The shocking statement from such a young child sent a chill down his spine. He realized that his initial instincts were correct. No child should ever feel so desperate and afraid of their own parent. In that moment, Marcus knew he couldn't walk away. The red flags were waving furiously now, and he understood that this situation was far more serious than he had initially thought. As he stood there with Lucy clinging to him and her father glaring daggers, Marcus knew that his next actions would be crucial. Whatever the consequences, whatever the risk to his job, he couldn't abandon this child who had placed her trust in him. Marcus took a protective stance as Lucy huddled behind him, his posture firm but non-threatening. He was acutely aware of the delicate balance he needed to maintain, protecting Lucy while not overstepping his legal boundaries or provoking her father into violence. The father advanced again, his face contorted with rage. "You have no right to interfere. Give me my daughter now, or I swear I'll have you arrested," he threatened. Marcus raised his hands in a placating gesture, his voice calm but firm. "Sir, please stay back. You're scaring your daughter. Let's talk about this calmly." The man's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Talk? There's nothing to talk about. I'm calling the police right now. You'll lose your job for this, you piece of trash." As the father reached for his phone, Marcus made a split-second decision. "Go ahead and call them," he said, his voice steady. "But I want you to know that I'm also going to call child services. I suspect something is wrong inside your house because your daughter is terrified." The mere mention of child services caused a visible shift in the father's demeanor. His face paled, and for a moment the aggressive facade cracked, revealing a flicker of fear. He took a step back, his hand dropping away from his phone as he ended the call and paced back into his home. Marcus felt a fleeting sense of triumph, but the problem was far from resolved. What was he supposed to do with the girl, with her father still in the house? Taking her wasn't an option, and as he wrestled with his next move, his deliberation was cut short. Just as he began turning toward Lucy, intending to demand an explanation, the front door of the house burst open with a resounding bang. The scene that unfolded before Marcus's eyes was nothing short of horrifying. The father emerged once more, but this time he was dragging a woman, Rachel. Her condition made Marcus's blood run cold. Her face was severely bruised and swollen, with only one eye able to open. Though she couldn't speak, her visible eye pleaded silently for help as her husband forced her towards his car. Marcus stood frozen for a split second, the shock of the situation paralyzing him momentarily. He had suspected something was wrong, but the reality was far worse than he had imagined. Before he could intervene, the father had shoved Rachel into the car and was speeding away, tires screeching on the pavement. Lucy's terror now took on new meaning as she tugged at Marcus's sleeve, urging him to save her mother. "Please," she sobbed, "don't let him hurt Mommy any more." Marcus, still reeling from what he had just witnessed, knelt down beside Lucy. "Lucy, I need you to tell me everything that's happening. Can you do that for me?" The little girl seemed too shaken to form coherent sentences, her body trembling with fear and adrenaline. Realizing he needed to approach this differently, Marcus softened his voice. "If it's too hard to tell, maybe you can show me?" Lucy nodded, her small hand gripping Marcus's work-roughened one as she led him towards the house. Despite his professional obligations, Marcus knew he couldn't ignore such clear signs of domestic violence. He had crossed a line, but there was no going back now. As they approached the front door, Marcus's senses were on high alert. He could hear the faint sound of glass crunching under their feet, and an acrid smell wafted from the open doorway. Standing in the threshold, Marcus absorbed the scene before him, his heart sinking with each detail he noticed. The interior told a story of violence that words couldn't fully capture. Broken glass and wooden splinters littered the floor, creating a hazardous path through what should have been a warm family home. Shattered picture frames lay stray at the officers surrounding him. Lucy, inside the police car, watched with wide, fearful eyes as the tense situation escalated. Marcus parked his garbage truck at a safe distance and watched anxiously, his hands tightly gripping the steering wheel. The father was vehemently arguing with the police, his voice loud and aggressive. Despite the chaos, Officer Sarah maintained a calm demeanor, attempting to de-escalate the situation. "Sir, we need you to calm down and step away from the door. We're here to ensure everyone's safety, including yours," she stated firmly. The father's response was filled with fury. "You have no right to come here and tell me what to do in my own house." His hands gestured wildly, his face a mask of defiance. As Marcus observed the standoff, he felt a mix of emotions: anger at the man's actions, worry for Lucy's and her grandmother's safety, and a deep-seated hope that the situation would resolve without further harm. The police, well trained for such crises, worked together seamlessly. One officer was speaking into her radio, likely calling for additional backup, while another tried to reason with the father. The rest of the team positioned themselves strategically, ready to intervene if necessary. Lucy's voice broke through Marcus's thoughts, her small, trembling voice coming from the back seat of the police car where an officer had opened the door to comfort her. "Please, don't let him hurt Grandma," she pleaded, her tears a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. Marcus couldn't just sit back. He stepped out of his truck and approached Officer Sarah. "Is there anything I can do to help?" he asked, his voice earnest. The officer looked at him, her expression softening slightly. "Stay close, and keep Lucy company. She trusts you, and right now, she needs all the support she can get," she instructed. Grateful to be of use, Marcus nodded and walked over to the police car, crouching down by Lucy. "Hey there, I'm here with you. We're going to make sure everything's okay," he reassured her, offering a comforting smile. Meanwhile, the father's anger seemed to find a new target as he spotted Marcus near Lucy. "You again. You're the reason all this is happening. You should have minded your own business," he yelled across the yard. Officer Sarah stepped in front of Marcus, shielding him from the father's verbal assault. "Sir, we need you to focus on resolving this situation peacefully. Threatening others isn't going to help," she said calmly. The father scoffed, his gaze darting around as if looking for an escape or perhaps reassurance that he could control the situation. It was then that the grandmother appeared at the front door, her presence surprising everyone. She looked distraught but resolute as she addressed the police. "Officers, please help. He's not himself, and I'm worried about what he might do," she said, her voice quavering. The situation reached a critical point as the father glanced between the grandmother and the officers, his defiance beginning to waver under the collective concern for his actions. It was clear he was outnumbered and outmatched, and slowly his resistance started to crumble. With a deep sigh, he lowered his hands, his posture deflating as he seemed to realize the seriousness of the consequences he faced. The officers took this opportunity to approach him cautiously, talking him through the process as they prepared to take him into custody. As the police handled the father, Marcus stayed close to Lucy, who was now watching with a mix of relief and sorrow. "It's going to be okay, Lucy. The police are helping your grandma now, and they'll make sure your mom is safe too," Marcus whispered, squeezing her hand gently. The events of the day had unfolded in a whirlwind of emotions and actions. As the police led the father away in handcuffs, the neighborhood slowly began to return to its usual quiet. Marcus looked around, the weight of the day's events settling on his shoulders. Yet, despite the turmoil, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had stepped up when it truly mattered, acting as a pillar of strength for a scared little girl who had nowhere else to turn. The police continued to secure the scene, and Marcus knew that his involvement was not over yet. There would be questions, possibly a statement to give, but he was ready for whatever came next. His main concern was Lucy's well-being and the hope that her family could recover from this ordeal. As the sun began to set over the suburban landscape, the flashing police lights cast long shadows on the ground. Marcus stood by Lucy, a silent guardian amidst the chaos, ready to support her through the recovery and beyond, no matter what the future held. That'll be another charge on him. He turned back to Rachel and Lucy, his expression softening. We'll make sure he can't harm you again. Marcus watched as the officers began to wrap up the scene, coordinating with each other to secure evidence and finalize their reports. He felt a mixture of relief and apprehension about the upcoming legal proceedings, but he knew his involvement had been crucial in preventing further harm to Rachel and Lucy. The grandmother, still holding her daughter and granddaughter close, looked up at Marcus with gratitude. "Thank you," she said earnestly. "You've done more than just your job today. You've saved my family." As Marcus prepared to leave, Lucy tugged at his sleeve. "Will you come visit us again?" she asked, her voice small but hopeful. Marcus smiled and nodded. "Of course, Lucy. I'll come by to check on you guys and make sure everything's okay." With the police now in control of the situation, Marcus returned to his garbage truck. He knew there would be questions about his actions today, perhaps even some repercussions at work, but he drove away with a clear conscience, knowing he had acted to protect those in need. The experience had changed him, reaffirming his belief in doing what was right, regardless of the personal cost. As he resumed his route, his thoughts lingered on the day's events, the courage of those he had helped, and the stark reminder of the impact one individual can have in the lives of others. Back at the station, Officer Johnson was finalizing his report. Marcus Taylor, he noted, despite being a garbage collector, played a pivotal role in a domestic violence case, showing exceptional bravery and moral fortitude. As the community would later learn of his actions, Marcus became somewhat of a local hero. But for him, the real reward was the smile on Lucy's face and the safety of her family. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them, bolstered by the knowledge that he had done the right thing. As Marcus resumed his route, the streets felt different under the evening sky. The weight of the day's events lingered, yet there was a certain clarity in knowing he had intervened at a critical moment. Every stop along the way now held a new meaning. He wasn't just picking up trash. He was part of the community's fabric, a silent guardian watching over it. The neighborhood, once just a backdrop to his daily routine, now felt vibrant and alive with stories. People nodded to him, some with a newfound respect after witnessing his courage. The mundane task of garbage collection had transformed into something noble. Back at the depot, as he parked his truck, Marcus's thoughts turned to the upcoming discussions with his supervisors. He prepared mentally for the questions about his actions, armed with the belief that what he did was right. The community's safety, especially that of Rachel and Lucy, outweighed any protocol he had sidestepped. Stepping out of the truck, Marcus was greeted by his supervisor, who had been briefed by HR. "Marcus, I want to hear directly from you. Walk me through what happened today." His supervisor began, his tone serious but open. Marcus explained everything, from the initial encounter to the dramatic conclusion, his voice steady and his recount factual. His supervisor listened intently, nodding occasionally, a sign of understanding rather than judgment. After a long pause, the supervisor spoke. "It's not every day that we have someone go above and beyond like you did. While it's unusual, I can see your actions were about protecting the community. We'll review everything, but I want you to know, I'm glad you're part of this team." Relief washed over Marcus, and a small smile crept up on his face. The support from his employer reinforced his decision, making the risks he took feel validated. As he left the depot, the evening sun cast long shadows across the yard, and Marcus felt a deeper connection to everything around him. His role as a garbage collector had taken on a new dimension, highlighting how deeply intertwined his job was with the lives of those he served. Driving home, Marcus reflected on the day's trials and triumphs. He thought about Lucy's smile, Rachel's gratitude, and the community's support. These were the moments that defined him, not just as a worker, but as a human being deeply embedded in the fabric of society. Arriving home, Marcus sat quietly for a moment before heading inside. The house was quiet, a stark contrast to the day's chaos. He knew the road ahead might still hold challenges, especially dealing with any fallout from Dennis's threats, but he was ready for them. With each step he took, whether in his truck or in his community, he carried with him the knowledge that he had acted not just for himself, but for the greater good. As the night settled in, Marcus felt a profound sense of purpose. Tomorrow he would return to his route, to his community, ready to serve, protect, and uphold the values that today had so fiercely defended. With a renewed sense of pride in his work and his place within the community, Marcus knew that no matter what the future held, he had made a difference, and that made all the difference in the world. Overview of the story ***. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, Marcus Taylor, a dedicated garbage collector, finds himself unexpectedly drawn into a harrowing domestic crisis. While on his route, he encounters Rachel and her daughter Lucy, who are in desperate need of help due to an abusive situation at home involving Rachel's ex-husband, Dennis. Displaying remarkable bravery and quick thinking, Marcus intervenes, saving Rachel and Lucy from further harm. His actions set off a chain of events that lead to a dramatic confrontation, with the police intervening and arresting Dennis on multiple charges. Throughout the ordeal, Marcus remains a steadfast protector, demonstrating the profound impact one individual can have on the lives of others. Thumbs up, like, speech balloon comment, counterclockwise arrows button share, and bell subscribe. If you enjoyed this gripping tale of courage and community, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories. Drop a comment below to let us know what you think, and if you have any similar experiences, we'd love to hear them. Glowing star speech balloon loudspeaker.